Have you ever felt like you were living in someone else's shadow, no matter how hard you tried? What if the life you've worked so hard for was always overshadowed by someone who never had to try at all? This is the story of Emily Wilson, a woman who spent years chasing approval from a family that never saw her for who she truly was. Her sister, Sophie, was the golden child, always in the spotlight, always getting what she wanted, while Emily was left in the background, trying to prove her worth. But what happens when you finally decide you've had enough? What if you walked away from everything you thought defined you, just to find your own voice? Stay with me as I tell you the story of Emily's journey to reclaim her life, her strength, and her freedom, because sometimes it takes walking away to finally be free. I'm Emily Wilson, 34, a marketing director at a prestigious firm in New York City. On paper, my life seems flawless. A corner office with a view of the skyline, a sleek Manhattan apartment, and a job that demands respect. I've always been the one who got things done, the reliable one. But beneath this seemingly perfect exterior lies a painful truth that most people don't know about. Growing up, I never thought much about my family's picture-perfect image until it became painfully clear that I was never truly seen. My name, Emily, has always been second to my younger sister, Sophie. She was the one everyone adored, the beautiful one, the outgoing one, the one who could do no wrong. She always had the world at her feet, from the moment she was born. And as for me, well, I spent my life chasing after approval, never quite reaching it. My parents, rich from the success of their organic grocery chain, loved us both, but there was always an unspoken favoritism. They'd never admit it, but it was clear. Sophie got away with everything. While I spent my childhood following every rule, completing every task, and working relentlessly, Sophie breezed through life with a smile that could charm anyone. She was the golden child, the Instagram sensation, and I was the one always in her shadow. People think I've got it made now. But the truth is, I've spent my entire adult life hiding from the reality that has never stopped haunting me. The more I accomplished, the more I realized that no matter how much success I had, I would always be known as Sophie's sister. It's like my identity was wrapped up in her light, and I was the one who lived in the darkness. I am not the person you think I am. My story didn't start with triumphs. It started with feeling invisible, unnoticed, and trapped in the constant comparison to my sister. It was a struggle I couldn't talk about, because no one would understand. But today, I'm going to tell you the truth. The story you've heard about Metha, one of the polished career woman, is just the surface. Below it, there's something much deeper. Let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a large, immaculate house in Greenwich, Connecticut. Our home, surrounded by well-kept lawns and tree-lined streets, was a symbol of our family's success. On the outside, we were the picture of the perfect American family. My parents, Robert and Diane, had built an empire, Harper's Organic Markets, a chain of grocery stores that was worth millions. To everyone who knew us, we were living the dream, but in our home, nothing was as it seemed. From a young age, I was taught that success came from hard work, discipline, and responsibility. My parents would sit me down, their faces serious, explaining how important it was to save, plan for the future, and always do the right thing. I absorbed it all, desperately wanting their approval, constantly feeling like I was missing something. Their love, while given in abundance, was never as much as I craved. Then there was Sophie. She was 7 years younger than me, and from the moment she entered the world, everything changed. Sophie was beautiful. She had her mother's striking emerald eyes and her father's charming smile. Wherever she went, people noticed her. She was the one who captured the attention of relatives at family dinners, the one who turned heads with her effortless beauty. And I was always in the background, struggling to find my place. Sophie didn't have to try. She walked into a room, and the world seemed to bend around her. She was naturally gifted at everything. She was a model, an influencer, a social butterfly who never had to work as hard as I did to succeed. And while I worked tirelessly at school, studying for exams and maintaining perfect grades, Sophie didn't even have to try to be adored. She was the golden child, and I was just the older, responsible sister who could never quite shine in her light. At first, I loved Sophie with all my heart. She was my little shadow, following me around, calling my name like it was her favorite word. I braided her hair, helped her with her homework, and cheered at every dance recital. But as we grew older, something shifted. Sophie's love turned into teasing. The same jokes she made about my looks, my clothes, and even my intelligence were ones that made me shrink. The little sister who adored me became the one who made me feel small. At a family barbecue, Sophie once pointed at me in front of our cousins and said, "Emily's the brainy one." But I got the looks. Everyone laughed, and I was left standing there, trying to smile, my cheeks burning. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent. My parents didn't correct her. They just let it slide. And in that moment, I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I would always be in Sophie's shadow. It didn't end with words. As we got older, Sophie's actions became bolder, more selfish, and frankly, cruel. She would take things that were mine without asking: clothes, jewelry, even my textbooks. And when I would confront her, she'd just roll her eyes, acting like I was the one overreacting. She never apologized. It was as if my feelings didn't matter. Sophie had this way of manipulating everyone around her. People adored her without question. Even our parents, who prided themselves on discipline and hard work, would give her whatever she wanted. No questions asked. I watched as they slipped her money for weekend trips and new clothes, while I had to justify every penny I spent. It wasn't just the money, it was the constant feeling of being overlooked, of never being enough. "Emily, you're the sensible one," my mom would say, her tone half proud, half expecting. But it stung. It stung because I was always the responsible one, the one they depended on to keep things together. And Sophie? She was the carefree one, the one who could do no wrong. I hated it, but I couldn't escape it. It was like I was stuck in a race I could never win. The anger bubbled up slowly at first, but as the years went by, it grew harder to ignore. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be more than the person who took care of things while Sophie played the part of the golden child. It wasn't just about jealousy, it was about feeling like I was invisible. And no matter what I did, it felt like Sophie was always in the spotlight, taking everything with her. The worst part was that Sophie never noticed. She never saw the toll her behavior took on me. She didn't care. And that's when I started to realize nothing was ever going to change. No matter how hard I worked, how much I achieved, I would never be more than Sophie's older sister. That realization hit harder than any insult she could throw my way. I had spent so much of my life trying to get their approval, only to realize that no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough. The phone call came on a rainy April morning, the kind of day when everything feels heavy. I was sitting at my desk, going over a marketing pitch for a new client, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered, not expecting what I would hear. The voice on the other end was calm but firm, too firm. "Miss Wilson," the officer began, "I'm afraid I have some difficult news. Your parents' private plane crashed during a business trip to Denver. There were no survivors." The words hit me like a punch, leaving me breathless. My heart stopped for a moment as I heard those words, "no survivors." My parents were gone. I barely processed what came next. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. The world around me blurred as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. My parents, the people who had always been there, the ones who built everything we had, they were gone. Just like that. I should have felt something more than shock, more than numbness. But the truth is, it didn't feel real, and it didn't feel like I had the right to mourn the way I should have. I had spent years running from my family, from everything that had happened between me and Sophie, and now they were gone. There was no chance to fix anything, no chance to make things right. My life was shattered, and there was nothing left but the cold emptiness of a family broken by years of silent pain. The funeral was a blur. I had to organize everything, booking the church, arranging the catering, sending out the invitations. I was the one holding it all together, while everyone else barely noticed me. Sophie, as usual, was the center of attention. She was surrounded by mourners who flocked to her, hugging her, whispering their sympathies. I stood by the casket, my hands shaking, arranging flowers, greeting relatives who barely glanced in my direction. "Emily, you're so strong," my aunt said to me, her voice tinged with pity. But it didn't feel like strength. It felt like necessity. I was the one who had to hold it together. Sophie, on the other hand, seemed to glide through the day as if it were just another social event, always playing the role of the grieving daughter, even though I could see through the act. Her tears, though real, felt like part of a performance. She sobbed loudly during the eulogy, drawing every eye to her, then slipped into a quiet corner to check her phone. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her to help out, to step up for once, but I didn't. Instead, I bit my tongue, feeling the weight of my family's expectations press down on me even more. "You two are so different," a cousin remarked, eyeing Sophie's sleek black dress and my plain one. "She's got Diane's looks, doesn't she?" I nodded, feeling the old sting of comparison. It was like no matter what I did, I would always be the second choice, the quiet one, the sensible one, but never the one who was truly seen. Later that night, alone in my hotel room, I cried for my parents, for the love I had craved for so long, but had never received. And as the tears fell, I thought about the years of pain, the years of being ignored in favor of Sophie. I thought about how their pride in her had always overshadowed my own efforts. I loved them. But I was angry too. Angry that they had left me with nothing but memories of favoritism and unspoken rejection. And now, with their death, they had left me with a legacy I wasn't sure I could bear. After the funeral, I knew I had to make a choice. Sophie and I were no longer the little girls we once were. The childish rivalry, the constant comparison, none of that mattered now. My parents were gone, and what they had left behind was not just an inheritance, but a web of unresolved emotions. I had to let go of it all. The $12 million estate, the house in Greenwich, the businesses, they could all go to Sophie. I wasn't interested in fighting for it. I had spent so much of my life chasing something that would never be mine. The approval, the recognition, the love it was never going to happen. So, I decided to walk away. For once, I chose myself. I moved to New York City, the city that always felt like the place where I could reinvent myself. I took a job at a top marketing firm and started to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was incredibly hard. But I was determined. I was tired of living in Sophie's shadow. Tired of being the one who was always overlooked, always second. I threw myself into my work, focusing on my career, on building something that was mine. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to make anyone proud but myself. The city was bustling, alive with opportunity, and for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. I didn't think about Sophie much at first. I had to distance myself. I had to be strong enough to let go of the years of pain and resentment. But I also knew that walking away from the family, from the inheritance, from everything that had tied me down, was the right thing to do. It was my chance to finally live on my own terms. I started making new friends, finding joy in things I had forgotten about, like painting. I spent weekends in Central Park, taking long walks by the river, and learning how to love myself again. The weight of the past was lifting, little by little, as I found my own voice. And then came the phone call. It was Sophie. Her voice, usually so confident, sounded desperate. She was in trouble again this time, with the money she had inherited from our parents. The bank had frozen her assets, and she was panicking. She wanted me to help her, to fix her problems like I always had. But this time, I didn't want to fix it. I didn't want to be her safety net anymore. I had spent my life cleaning up her messes, and I wasn't going to do it anymore. When I picked up the phone, my voice was cold. "I'm sorry, Sophie. I've moved on. You made your choices. You can figure this out yourself." For the first time, I felt no guilt. I was free. As the weeks passed, Sophie's calls continued, each one more desperate than the last. At first, I listened to her voicemails, half-heartedly entertained by the idea that she was finally getting a taste of the messes she had so often dragged me into. Her voice was frantic in every message, filled with a panic I had never heard from her before. "I don't know what to do, Emily," she cried in one voicemail. "The lawyers are telling me I owe millions in taxes. I thought I was going to be set for life. This isn't what I thought it would be." I deleted the message, her words nothing but background noise now. Sophie had lived her life on the premise that everything should come easy. She was used to being handed things, and now that things weren't falling into her lap, she was struggling to keep up. But for me, it felt like victory. I was finally able to take a step back and watch her navigate the chaos she had created. Sophie had always used charm and beauty to get what she wanted, and now it was unraveling around her. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had built a house of cards, and now it was falling down. I had spent years trying to please everyone, bending over backward for the approval of a family that would never see me for who I was. And now, for the first time, I was free of that burden. I didn't have to fight for validation anymore. I didn't have to live up to anyone's expectations. I was finally able to live for myself. At work, things were going better than I could have imagined. I had earned the respect of my colleagues, something I never thought I'd achieve. People started to notice the change in me. I was no longer the woman who shied away from attention. I was the woman who stood tall, confident in her decisions, and who spoke with a new sense of purpose. "You're killing it, Emily," my boss said to me after a successful client pitch. Her words rang in my ears, a reminder of how far I had come. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself. And the best part, I didn't owe any of it to anyone but me. I wasn't Emily, the sensible sister. I was Emily Wilson, a woman who had found her strength in the face of adversity. Sophie's life, on the other hand, was continuing to spiral. Her social media posts, once full of glamour and success, were now marked with signs of desperation. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had been throwing lavish parties, trying to project an image of wealth she no longer had. It was all a facade, one that was quickly crumbling, but I didn't feel sorry for her anymore. I had spent so many years trying to help her, to pick up the pieces of her life, but I had finally realized that it wasn't my responsibility. She had made her choices, and now she was dealing with the consequences. I had learned the hard way that you can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed, and I wasn't going to let her drag me back into her mess. Looking back, I know I made the right decision. Leaving my family behind, walking away from the inheritance, from everything I thought I wanted, it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I spent so many years measuring my worth against Sophie's beauty, her charm, and our parents' approval. I had allowed myself to be defined by their love, or lack thereof. But now, for the first time, I was choosing myself. I was no longer bound by the expectations of others. I had found my own voice, my own path, and it felt incredible. I realized that my worth was not tied to what others thought of me, or how they saw me in comparison to Sophie. It was in who I had become strong, independent, and unapologetically myself. Life doesn't always work out the way we plan. Sometimes, it's unfair. Sometimes, the people we love the most can hurt us the deepest. But I've learned that in the end, it's not about how much we've lost, it's about how we choose to move forward. Sophie's life is her own now. I don't know what the future holds for her, but I don't need to. I've found peace in letting go, in not being defined by anyone else's choices but my own. The phone no longer rings with her name. The calls have stopped, and I've stopped looking back. I've finally built a life for myself, one where I can breathe, where I am enough. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: live your life for you. Don't let anyone dim your light. Because your story is yours to write, and no one else can define who you are. I'm not just Emily Wilson anymore. I am me, and that's more than enough. Thank you for following my journey. If my story resonates with you, I hope you take it to heart. Whatever you're going through, don't let anyone take away your light. Keep pushing forward. Your own story is waiting for you to live it.